Well, yesterday was my birthday, and many of you on YouTube and Facebook and texts and calls, I received hundreds of birthday well wishes, and I want to thank you, each one of you, for reaching out and expressing your congratulations to me, your prayers, your kind words. It truly was an amazing encouragement. And it got me thinking today about birth and birthdays. You know, we all celebrate at least one birthday. And what do I mean by that? Well, each of us were born into this world, or as Jesus referred to in John's Gospel, chapter 3, that which is born of the flesh is flesh. So we all have a physical birthday. Mine happened to be on June 29th, 1953. That's right, I'm 67 years old as of yesterday. But that was my first birth. I also had a second birth, and Jesus refers to that in that gospel that I just mentioned in John chapter 3, as he was talking to Nicodemus. Nicodemus was concerned about his eternal destiny and wanted to know what he needed to do to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And so Jesus talked about the fact that he needed to be born again, or really more accurately, born from above. And so what does this second birth have to do with? Well, it really has to do with identity. What Jesus was pointing out is that everybody has an identity based on birth. The first identity that we were born into was not just our family name. Each of us obviously were born into a specific family. I was born into the Brzezinski family. But he's talking more about a spiritual family that we were born into. He refers to the Pharisees there in John chapter 8 of being of their father the devil, that they were born into a spiritual family. And the same thing that Paul refers to there in Ephesians chapter 2 when he talks about our spiritual identity, when he says, and you were dead. We were born spiritually dead, and as a result we trespassed and sinned according to the course of the world. We were all in the same spiritual boat, as it were. We were all spiritually dead because, he goes on to say, you were dead in your trespasses and sins in which you formerly walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, by the Spirit. And that, of course, is Satan. So we all were born with a spiritual identity of death. Satan is the spirit of death. And it's no wonder that Jesus said that we needed to be born from above. We needed to be born again. It's interesting as we read here in John's Gospel in the Message Bible, where Jesus is responding to Nicodemus' request, and Jesus said, you're absolutely right. Take it from me, unless a person is born from above, it's not possible to see what I'm pointing to, that is God's kingdom. How can anyone, said Nicodemus, be born who has already been born and grown up? You can't re-enter your mother's womb and be born again. What are you saying with this born from above talk? And that's the thing about spiritual things. They aren't understood by the natural man. And Nicodemus illustrates that here. It takes the revelation of God to understand spiritual things. Jesus goes on to say, you're not listening. Let me say it again. Unless a person submits to this original creation, the wind hovering over the water creation, the invisible moving the visible, a baptism into a new life, it's not possible to enter God's kingdom. When you look at a baby, it's just that, a baby. You can look at it and touch it, but the person who takes shape within is formed by something you can't see and touch, the Spirit, and becomes a living spirit. So don't be surprised when I tell you that you have to be born from above, out of this world, so to speak. And so Jesus goes on to say in the following verses, that's the way it is for everyone. Born from above by the wind of God, the Spirit of God. Now again, Nicodemus didn't understand spiritual things. And he goes on to ask the question, what do you mean by this? How does this happen? And Jesus kind of lovingly chides him a little bit. And he says, you're a respected teacher of Israel, and you don't know these basics? Listen carefully. I'm speaking somber truth to you. I speak only of what I know by experience. I give witness only to what I have seen with my own eyes. There is nothing secondhand here. Yet, instead of facing the evidence and accepting it, you procrastinate with questions. Jesus said, if I tell you things that are plain as the hand before your face, and you don't believe me, there's the key, faith. You don't believe me, what use is there in telling you of the things you can't see, the things of God? And that's it. We have to accept the reality of what God is revealing to us, both to have a new birth, to be born again, and then to experience the outlived life of that new birth. We receive God by faith and we walk by faith. Jesus goes on to say, no one has ever gone up into the presence of God except the one, referring to himself, the one who came down from that presence, the Son of Man. So may I encourage you today, whether this is your physical birthday or whether you're celebrating your spiritual birthday. My spiritual birthday was October 24th, 1973. And it was the greatest day of the beginning of my life because I began to experience Christ as my life on that day. And he has been expressing his life ever since then through me, of course, dependent on my receptivity to him. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up for this video, and share it with your friends.